every graduate is expected to perform certain functions, and those functions are enumerated in the form of competencies and skills in our curriculum. And which is why you have the variations. For instance, there was a time when the engineering program was of 5-year duration, even in our most premier institutions. It was brought down to 4 years. Even the medical education, which happened to be of 6-year duration earlier, was brought down to 5.5 and now 5 years. So it all depends upon that. But the Kothari Commission in the same paragraph said that since we are transiting from a very diverse system to a newer system, let us move on to 10 plus 2 plus 3 for the purposes of ensuring the uniformity. And then those inputs were used very heavily for the preparation of the first national policy of education of 1968, which was never passed by the parliament. But then subsequently, when we came up with the new national policy on education in 1986, the national policy on education says that we will follow 10 plus 2 plus 3 system for liberal arts, basic sciences, and other general higher education. Whereas for professional courses, it would vary from discipline to discipline.
Yeah. I just want to say something which I think Professor Ved Prakash misunderstood. When we talk about the liberal art education, I'm not talking about an engineer, a civil engineer coming out of a university in India and a civil engineer coming out from a university overseas, in which a civil engineer from India said that, hey, listen, I can design this bridge. I'm technically very, very knowledgeable and sound. But when asked about anything else apart from technology, he could not answer. But we had a student coming in from a university in the US who had been exposed to a liberal art education, and for him, designing a bridge, being a civil engineer, it was just not all about designing a bridge, but it was also about its economic, social, and financial implications. He had to know about everything apart from just designing or being technically savvy. Yes.
And Niharika, may I just like to ask you?
Yeah, we are going to break up into a Q&A.
No, is studying abroad an answer to all issues? This is my question to the panelists. Is studying abroad an answer to all issues?
My answer would be no. And in fact, I'm a little bit worried that studying abroad has become the sort of default choice for those who can afford it, on the presumption that education abroad is somehow naturally better. And it's prestigious. It's certainly the case that the liberal arts education, as Niharika was describing it, better prepares students for the vicissitudes of the market in the 21st century. And I think it's worth repeating what she said, that liberal arts is not simply humanities or dance and music. It's a way of thinking that keeps moving across disciplines. It involves elements of humanities, social sciences, but also natural and applied sciences. But these liberal arts courses, the foundation courses that students take abroad, they're often called general education courses there. These are not necessarily preparations for a major course of study. They are that prepare the students for life. So liberal arts here is both non-vocational and vocational. Liberal arts is non-vocational in as much as is not providing people with a specific toolkit for a specific profession. But what it is doing is providing students with ways of thinking, ways of asking questions that will serve them very well later in life.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, on that. We're really running short of time, so we're going to have some question and answers here.
Can I just...
Yeah, sorry. It really concerns me that you ask a question like, is studying abroad the answer to all issues?
because all issues in India related to education largely related to the people who can't afford to go abroad. So, answer to all issues? No, not to our issues. Answer for a few people? I would say that in some people who are lucky enough or unlucky enough, depending on the profession you choose. For example, and he told me that interns that come in from Harvard, Yale, Oxford, he mentioned he said, compared to Bangalore Law School, students are here and the rest are here. It depends because they are learning the Indian system as they study. So there's a difference. There are some fields, for example, I would say architecture, where the exposure and creativity is on a different level in the West. I would suggest that if a child can afford it, they should do architecture from ground up, from year one over there, instead of going for higher studies. It would make a huge difference. The exposure, the creativity is missing here. So it depends on which profession you're choosing. But more than anything else, I would say that women in your position should really try and focus on, I'm not preaching, I hope, but I would just give a mild suggestion that it would be great if there was some pressure put on the government to improve our government schools. That's really the crucial thing.
So that we all have to make a conscientious effort, right from the education part to the sanitization. So step by step we are working towards that goal, Mrs. Mayan, but thank you so much for the suggestion. And I think
we would like to open the house for the questions.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, actually, yeah. I'd like to take your analogy, Niharika, of what you told us about a civil engineer from abroad and a chap from here, who's technology-wise probably better than the other guy. But because of this lack of the liberal arts sensitization to that, we end up with such faulty designs in terms of all the highways, just a living example of all of that, because it's just probably perfect on paper, but when it comes to usage, it's so shoddy that we live and bear with it.
So just like Jonathan said, what does liberal art do? It makes you into critical thinkers.
It broadens your perspective, and inputting into the cognitive domain is completely missing in the Indian classrooms today. We encourage by rote learning. We have teachers who know no better. And since we've got Professor Ved Prakash here, who's a very influential person in the domain of higher education in the country, sir, I think that the weakest link in the teaching and learning cycle is the teacher today. You empower the teacher, you actually broaden his horizons, the rest of it will follow suit. If you have a teacher with a tunnel vision, sir, how far is he going to take his students? I think we as a country need to wake up to this fact. There's a crying need for this, and it's never too late to address this, because unless our teachers are empowered professionals, we can keep bemoaning the fact that our education system is in the doldrums and nothing can be done about it. As far as the question about our children wanting to go abroad, I think it's not so much a question of being able to afford it or not. Lucky are those who can afford it, but they go there for the rigor that education abroad entails. Here, in most cases, it's become a sham. It's not even worth the paper that the degree is printed on. Strong words, but I speak from my heart. No, strong words, but I speak from my heart. Because I feel that a whole lot of children do not get the kind of options they deserve. Because of a system that's not working.
We know that. That's why we had this session today. Because, as I said, education is very close to everyone's heart. Yes, you have a question.
Socially, skill education is still considered inferior to the academic qualifications. So, what is the take on this can happen that it can become the student's first choice?
I think we need to give the vocational orientation to higher education, which we have not done for all these years, though we had started talking about it since Modalia's commission in 1952. We could not make it a success story at the school stage. There was no vertical opening available for the children. Children who would opt for vocational education at the school level, for them, this education would be terminated at the end of grade 12. What we have done now, we have made a modest beginning. We have set up 150 community colleges now in the year 2013 and 14. And we have also instituted now Bachelor of Vocational Degree. All India Council for Technical Education has come up with as many as 26 different, 76 trades and 26 sectors, for which the national occupational standards are enumerated. And the skill knowledge providers have been identified. And now we are trying to marry the industry with the institution so that the industry can come forward and collaborate with educational institutions and provide the skill component either on the campus itself, or if not on the campus, at least in their own in industrial places. So we have opened up the now the higher education sector by way of formalizing, by way of bringing out regulations now for that. So what is needed is that we need to lay down separate qualifications for the teachers whom we are expecting to handle these vocations. Unfortunately, we do expect that the same set of teachers would be able to handle the vocational programs and they miserably fail. So this is the beginning which we have made.
Thank you. Yes. Can I have the next question?
Can I have a question?
Yes. This is to Mr. Dev Prakash. The question is it just taking on one of my former mates' question, is there any way that professors, they can be, there be a certain code whereby they have to have certain number of publications? Because in all universities, if let's make one country, let's just take for now US. What I found in doing my education here at Lucknow University was that yes, none of my professors were up to date on anything, and and secondly, that is one question. The other question is that as a person heading the UGC, do you have the authority to really directly recommend to model, after taking various inputs, that this is our model system of education that should be followed in the universities, professors should have these standards, and is that possible?
We already have that system in place. In fact, the University Grants Commission, since its inception in 1956, has the responsibility of laying down the norms and the standards, laying down the benchmark. And the minimum qualifications are laid down by the University Grants Commission, both in terms of educational qualifications, in terms of research publications, in terms of MPhil and PhD as well. And very recently in 5 years ago in 2009, we laid down very stringent conditions for MPhil and PhD when we found that the PhDs are, to a large number of students without following proper procedures. We have made it mandatory now that the students would give seminars and presentations. Students would also be obliged to publish at least 2 research papers before the submission of their thesis in the refereed journal, and that they would also be subjected to an open viva voce examination. So we have laid down parameters for the purposes of ensuring quality, but then we have fellow colleagues who come up with the alternative model.
Anyone has any other question?
Yeah. Excuse me.
Yeah, hello. Yeah,
I'm sorry, he can answer.
one. Yeah.
Just let's keep it very relevant. We all know that very brief questions to the point.
Professor Prakash, I have one simple question. Let's take engineering. We have 3 types of colleges in our country. One, the IIT, where for 2,000 seats, maybe 200,000 go in, want to go in. Then we have those kind of colleges like Pune and Manipal where people spend lakhs to get admitted. And the third set of colleges, like you said, who are trying to get deregistered. So they are all under UGC, I suppose. So what are we doing to at least get them stabilized on the same level so that the people in India, if somebody is a child, is a 100%, he gets into IIT. Anything below that, no way. Either you put in money, go to Manipal, or you go abroad.
Yes,
or you get a third college.
I think this question will take a long time in answering. You know, when am I right? Because I think you can meet Professor Ved.
Yeah.
I have a little take on rote learning. It's not such a bad idea after all learning subjects like mathematics. Today's children, if you ask them to do the simple calculation of addition and subtraction, they are just not able to do it without a calculator.
That's the age of technology.
So, but they should be able to do it.
Ask a question. Yes, you have a question.
I have a question for Dr.
No, I think she has a question.
Yeah. My daughter, she passed out from Hindu college this year.
Request you to keep it brief to the point.
And now she's presently in King's College. So she's doing masters in financial mathematics. So what I felt that last 3 years I was getting the feedback of Hindu college every day, what's happening there, what was missing there. Now I'm getting the feedback from King's College, how updated they are. It's the most important thing I felt is the infrastructure of our college or school, how we plan from the beginning. And then she's so happy today. She said, I'm with the world level. She's in a global state. So that she can come back and compete here with everybody. But in Hindu college, she was missing that computer, that Wi-Fi system and library, whatever facility.
So this is not a, thank you so much. We would like to ask if anyone has any specific questions for John.
Okay, as you said, for UGC, how does it look into the matter where the universities affiliated to the UGC, not the private ones, the universities are getting...
We do not have PhD masters. That's not our job.
Smriti Irani has announced 2 days ago that she's asked the UGC for a complete revamp.
From the foreign institutions or industrial houses, where the project's motive itself goes against the line of the policies in the government of India. Like, I can quote the GM crops. Many industrial houses from foreign or within a country are providing fellowships to the universities, and the students are getting PhD degrees and other things, which the results are actually not in line of our policy, government of India's policy, or they become the private assets of those funding institutions.
I think when we undertake research, we do not get carried away by the national policies or international policies. Research is research. I mean,
Anyone has any other questions? Okay, with that, we'd like to close.
And also they say that master's degree in India, excuse me ma'am, a master's degree in India, they do not acknowledge the master's degree from UK. It's 1 year course there, and here it's 2 years. When they come back, they have to do another year of course. Is it true?
that's right, yeah, that's true.
That's true?
We do not
Why is it so?
We do not recognize because when you are giving the equivalence of a foreign degree, then you look into 3 things. One is the entry-level qualifications, another is the course content, and the third is the duration of the program through which you have undergone. And if it does not match, then the equivalence is not granted. And in UK, I mean, some of the universities are offering 2-year master's degree program, but some are offering only 1-year master's degree program, which is not recognized by us. We also do not recognize the engineering degree awarded by the UK universities because the engineering program again is of 3-year duration in the UK.
Another good thing what I like is she's there for last 2 months.
I'm sorry,
This means a lot because they immediately counsel for the job. See, within 2 months they are giving them...
Excuse me, madam, can you please continue your discussion one-to-one? Because I think that we must give a chance to the last question.
Okay.
Hi. For me, education doesn't stop at the school level, at the college level, at whatever. Education is a lifelong process. I don't know why we take it that way. And ma'am, that Vedas thing you said, actually these are not shlokas, but dohas. And dohas are actually capturing the essence of learning in 2 lines. We don't need to read all the big scriptures. But I would like to say...
Are you saying that we should only pay attention to 2 lines?
I'm not saying that.
I'm saying
let me complete. I was going to say, next is... Yes,
and
a suggestion, because education in the Indian system is just not about a certain period, it's swadhyay, continuous self-learning, and we should focus on that.
Thank you so much. I just want to conclude by just a few points, the takeaways from here. The first is, of course, we all know that what our Indian education system is about. Professor Ved Prakash has told us they want to increase enrollment, but along with increasing enrollment, we need to increase the capacity, we need to increase the quality, and of course, we are talking here about the importance of overseas education. As Mr. Rehan said, it's not where you study, is what you inculcate, at the end of the day. Yesterday someone asked me, what is the best thing about the Indian education system? And I said, the best thing about the Indian education system is our strong-willed, driving student force. So I think that is the biggest advantage about a student force. And with that, we'd like to conclude. Thank you so much.
Can I ask Archana, the senior? I think there's a classic debate between a general education and a specific technical education, and this debate, I think, has been going on forever. Athens and Sparta, and even Russia and US were both looking at opposing models in terms of liberal education versus specific education. And the second is the importance of learning things by rote versus a creative, more open education system without exams. So our panelists have discussed these questions and shed light on them with slightly differing opinions. Maybe, of course, everybody says that you should have creative and open thinking. But Madhu Rehan, for example, gave examples of why it is important to learn learn something so that a doctor or a lawyer has need to access the knowledge immediately without to be able to better comprehend issues. I'd like to thank Mr. Ved Prakash for sparing his valuable time and sharing with us the kind of huge issues that we face because of our very large numbers and the low base from which we started, and some of the solutions and he's advocating. And he also talked about how important it is to have inclusive education, and also about how important it is to integrate industry with our education. Jonathan Gill Harris, who is heading a university now which is going to focus on liberal arts education, talked about the I'd like to thank him very much for coming here and talking about the importance of being able to think and the importance of being able to solve a new problem rather than knowing the solution to an old problem. Because the world is changing really fast, so that ability will be far more valuable than just the knowledge of an old solution of an old problem. I'd like to thank Mrs. Madhu Rehan for sharing her own experiences and giving the industry perspective on hireability and the importance of actually training people. Besides a general outlook, it is important for people to know specifically about the jobs they are going to do so that they become far more valuable and in sync with the industry.